Hi, everyone. We are here at the European Blockchain Convention number 11. I'm here with Zoltan Vardai from Cointelegraph, an excellent reporter, one of the finest people we have in crypto reporting these days. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm trying not to blush on the camera because nobody's ever this generous with me. I'm also usually on the other end of the interviews. I usually ask the questions, so it's really nice to sit on the other end of the chair. How about you, Alona? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Actually, landed in Barcelona just a couple of hours ago, so kind of like getting through the day. But last year we sat together, and our interview got so many views and so much interest. So we thought it would be a good idea to maybe talk again. What a wild year we've had in crypto, right?
It's been really a wild year, and I think one of the wildest things for me, obvious as we're talking, we just had one of the biggest. No, it was actually the biggest liquidation events in crypto. It was a 20 billion liquidation. I think at least 20 billion because Binance doesn't share the whole data. There's a few exchanges which only share limited data. And one fascinating thing for me is that when Bitcoin dropped to 110K, investor sentiment entered into extreme fear. Now imagine this: Bitcoin 110K, investors at extreme fear. I've no idea how I should really rationalize this. It's been a crazy year.
Yeah, super crazy. The U.S. administration has a lot to do with how things are shifting and how things are looking. What do you think? I mean, looking at everything that the industry is pushing right now, what do you think in terms of, stable coins and regulation and states issuing their own tokens? Where do you think like most of the attention, most of the eyes would go next year?
That's a great question. I feel like stablecoins, for one, is something that's always at the center of attention, even if we enter a bear market or not. Which it's not guaranteed that we'll have another bear market, obviously. But I feel like stablecoins, just because they're not only used for investment purposes anymore. They're not just the dry powder used to enter into Bitcoin and Ether. We have some of the biggest firms doing remittances in stablecoins. We have a lot of use cases coming around with stablecoins. And just because the Genius Act has really legitimized them in the US, I feel like stablecoins right now are here to stay. And we will just see more progressive implementations. But one thing I'm really curious about is to see before is what happens with the US Clarity Act. Actually, I've just had the pleasure to speak with Matt Hugan from Bitwise Asset Management. He's the chief asset manager. Sorry, he's an awesome guy. And one thing he told me is that he actually thinks that the Clarity Act and the approval of the Clarity Act could be a significant crypto market catalyst. So I'm really curious how that will play out, because at the same time, a lot of people are saying that interest rates should be the next crypto market catalyst. But as Matt also said, like, interest rates are already predicted by the market. We're currently pricing into interest rates for the year. So if that happens, that shouldn't provide another crypto market catalyst on its own. And then thirdly, what will really depend on next year is whether Bitcoin can really break free of this 4-year cycle. That's something that a lot of people have called for. Personally, this is my third Bitcoin bull cycle, so I'm a little bit jittery when people are saying it's going to be different. We're going to 100K. I really remember when last cycle we just crossed 69K, which was it was really uneventful in terms of macroeconomic events. We've obviously had a lot of quantitative easing before. We had a lot of new money entering. We did have stimulus checks, which we may have again right now, which is funny. But other than that, Bitcoin has really uneventfully crossed 69K, and it slowly trickled down. Obviously, this year is different. We do have the ETFs. They provide the billions of inflows. We do have corporations buying Bitcoin, and it does seem like we do have better financial conditions. M2 financial money supply is going up. So all the real macro indicators point to the fact that we could be resuming this upside. And I think if this is proven, and if Bitcoin doesn't crash until the end of the year, I think a lot of interest will just flow back to the key, which is Bitcoin, because this would be unprecedented in terms of Bitcoin's historic cycle. And I don't know, maybe the institutional drivers may just overpower this 4-year cycle, Curie.
Let's see. I mean, I also, crypto and Bitcoin is still like an industry conversation. Even with everything that's going on, there's a bit more awareness outside of our industry, but really not where you would expect it to be given everything that has happened. And if we're considering the geopolitical movement and the Genius Act and Trump's other steps, and PayPal issuing their coin, and Bank of America saying they're going to do it, and Walmart saying they're going to do it, and the state in the US says it's going to do it. Do you think we are on the verge of mass adoption, or is it still us within the industry thinking that it's happening, but it's not there yet?
It's this is a hard question. I I guess I want to answer this by prefacing that I first and most importantly think about Bitcoin as a network. So for me, currently I think we're still in the early adopter phase. I don't have the chart in front of me, I'm afraid. But for in terms of Bitcoin, I think it's just less than 10% globally who still own Bitcoin. So that I wouldn't define that as mainstream auction by any means. However, if we look at stablecoins, as you mentioned yourself, we have some of these giant corporations coming out with their own stablecoins, and at the same time, the existing stablecoins are really facilitating billions, even trillions in transactions for Visa, for MasterCard, for these payment giants. So in terms of blockchain technology, we've definitely crossed mainstream adoption. Even if for Bitcoin particularly, mainstream adoption may still take a cycle. Although it depends if that would be a cycle. But just looking at stablecoin usage and just looking at how sophisticated stablecoin usage is, because we see real implementations from payment giants. We also see it used for remittances. The moderator previously on the stage after the stablecoin chat has just asked how many of the listeners that are getting paid in stablecoins are making payroll in stablecoins, and I think it was a good quarter of the room who had their hands up, and I assume that another quarter may not have heard the question. So I feel like blockchain is definitely entered mass consciousness in this case.
Cool. So let's go back to your writing and coverage and your day-to-day life as a journalist. Has there been like a point the past year of a story or um, a roll of events that happened that like really shocked you, that you felt like, this is a aha moment for you about the industry?
My aha moment came a while ago, but what really shocked me recently is that I have to speak about this liquidation event again from this weekend. I'm sorry, it's just on everyone's mind. I What really shocked me is that we've seen some of the largest exchanges face issues, face glitches. Binance, for instance, has been very forthcoming about it, and I applaud the fact that they've paid 180, no, it was 283 million to users, just because of these glitches and just because of what they lost in terms of positions. So I certainly applaud that. That was one big moment that stuck out for me. And another big moment at the same time is that all DeFi protocols have withered the storm. I would say even better than the centralized protocols. I mean, I've just started to Stanley Kulachov of Aave a few hours ago, and we were just discussing this, that Aave has just completely processed through all the liquidations without any issues, without any e-peggings, without any glitches. So as Tani was also saying, I feel like this once again could be a moment where we kind of recognize that we need more decentralized infrastructure rather than just decentralized rails, which will eventually come into bottleneck at some point. So I think this is a huge aha moment. And at the same time, this whole year we've seen a lot of decentralized exchange momentum. We've seen Hyperliquid. We're now seeing the BNB chains, Aster, and they are starting to really eat away in the market share of centralized exchanges. So I feel like that in itself does prove that that the industry is floating back to this inherent decentralization.
Yes, and we haven't even spoken about the more like semi-traditional financial tools like ETFs and index and all of those that are coming in big and are allowing people to engage with a product that they're a bit more familiar with, considered, the decentralization and all of that. It will be an exciting year ahead of us. So for our viewers, who are coming from founders of crypto companies and all of that, when you get people to, send you stories, offer you news, do you want to give them some kind of like an overview of what is it you like to see, what you don't like to see, what you'd like to be pitched?
Um, I Personally, I love human interest stories from one perspective because obviously we're very much focused on technology, but I think just touting the technology and the TPS and the numbers that these protocols give makes us miss a large segment of the mainstream. So I really like to see a story where, for instance, there's the human interest angle. We've recently ran a story on one BNB chain donation to I think it was the Malta Cancer Foundation. They've donated 200,000 worth of BNB a few years ago. They didn't touch it, and now it was worth like north of 3 million. Wow, which really speaks to it. And another thing for any founder who wants to contact me, and my email address, my author page is very public, my X profile as well. I if you think that you're building something that will affect a lot of crypto holders, it will be of interest to a lot of our readers, or it's something that could perhaps change something in the industry, I want to hear from you.
Absolutely great. I think the last thing we haven't touched upon, which is crazy, is where AI has taken us in the past year. I mean, a year ago, it wasn't at all a part of the conversation. All of a sudden, it runs our lives completely. So also in crypto, the embedment is quite spectacular. You've seen all kinds of like AI trends and usages that you found to be very exciting.
I've been a long time fanboy. I'm gonna fanboy out here, but I love Ben Vertzo, who's the founder of now they're called the Artificial Super Intelligence Alliance, so ACI for short. I think they've merged them. I believe it was next year with Fetcher AI. And what they're essentially building is that they're building a decentralized network, which can facilitate AI based services, and it can eventually lead to the facilitation, or I mean the development of artificial general intelligence. And I've been following Mr. Gertzel's work for a long time. I actually haven't had the chance to speak with him in person. I would really love to, but I think whatever he's building will always be treated like a sort of industry standard for decentralized AI. And I think the issue here, I'm a bit concerned about not that much about crypto and AI together. I'm just concerned about the general development of AI and where that's heading. Because we've seen decentralized models emerge with social media, and we've seen the billions of dollars worth of marketing money, and that these giants have basically generated on our personal information. And there's very little that came back to our users besides the fact that it's really usable for us, and it's a free public good. I can see it as a free public good, but if we are pretending that AI is going to be this huge public good and is going to bring us a bit forward, I think the conversation needs to be around how most people can become stakeholders in this, and not how 2 or 3 decentralized giants can basically pioneer this and profit from all our data. I think something needs to come back for us.
For sure. I mean, there's this saying that if you're not paying for something, you are the product, right? So I'm guessing that's also the case for AI. Thank you so much for joining us. Anything else you'd like to add to our viewers or to?
I guess one thing I'm really curious about, and I've been following along with my reporting, is what will happen after this traditional 4-year cycle.
Yeah.
And the traditional 4-year cycle will end either in the middle of October or in the middle of November. Now, if we cross that, I'm really curious as to what will happen after that. A lot of people are saying we have the ETFs now. We have the corporations that are buying Bitcoin. But one thing that's slightly concerning here is that whenever we see a large drawdown, we often see ETFs selling away. And to me, this points to a bit of a degen behavior. It doesn't point to the behavior of institutions or pension funds who just want to stack this for long term. So even though ETFs are buying a lot, that could easily flip. I'm not saying it will. I'm not making any wild predictions here, but people much smarter than me are saying that we will go on past the 4-year cycle. And I'm just curious how the ETF inflows will really look. And if so, I think it's a brand new conversation on Bitcoin's value as a store of value.
Yeah, and given that the 4-year cycle is not taken into consideration, wild cards like Trump administration and the changes that he's making. So like this interjunction, I think would be very interesting to see how the next few months would look like. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Connor.
Thank you.